I was originally going to do a BlizzCon ceremony video, but after watching the ceremony, I was like, hang on, there isn't a lot to cover here. But I ended up watching the Overwatch 2 little, showcase, and there was a little bit more in there. Still not as much as I would have thought, since we haven't heard anything about this game for about a year, if not more now.
It's been 84 years.
So I thought we'd talk about Overwatch 2 today, because I can finally feel like an expert about a game. This is the game that I play all the time, so I'm very excited to actually talk about this one.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Alright, let's talk about Overwatch 2, new maps, new heroes, kind of, other features, skill trees, all that kind of stuff. All this and more after the drop.
Hey, just was wondering.
2319! We have a 2319!
Alright, I also started a podcast, link in the description, top comment, check it out. If aliens are real, you get to hear me rambling on for about 45 minutes as to why I think aliens are real. Anyway, putting that aside. Now, some new maps were mentioned. Some were shown. So we've got Rome. That looks pretty damn cool. I do like when they do make maps around big major cities and that kind of stuff. It just leans into a lot of architecture or famous spots that they can use, so that's going to be pretty cool. They also did that with New York City. I mean, it looks great. They're also doing the famous no tires on any of the actual vehicles on the map. I'm excited for this. I think when you do bring out new maps, especially when you're pushing this whole PvE thing with Overwatch 2, you can expect a huge emphasis and a huge push on utilizing those new maps to make sure that not only are they PvP for competitive, but also a lot of emphasis on the story and the PvP aspect with these new maps too. They also mentioned maps that would include India and Toronto, so hopefully we get to see some of that stuff too. Or maybe they'll release the maps, then take them out of the rotation of the competitive games, like they did with Paris and Horizon Lunar Colony, which kind of renders them useless to me because I only play competitive like so many other people out there. I just hope they don't do the same thing that they've done with 2 other maps that they've recently released. I'm just hopeful they don't do that, but be prepared for that because they've done it before.
We're all soldiers now.
Now, because it's been since 2019 or something since we've actually seen a presentation for Overwatch 2, an in-depth presentation. We haven't seen a new hero for Overwatch since April 14th of last year, which was Echo. They did say that we're not going to see any new heroes because they're working on Overwatch 2, but I thought this is the moment we're going to see more heroes. Isn't this the moment where you show us what we've all been waiting for? And the only thing we saw was a Sojourn character, I believe I'm saying that right. We saw 2 seconds of her shooting her gun, which is going to be some sort of railgun. Kind of looked a little bit like Zarya, I'm not going to lie. But I was expecting this is the time that at least they're going to go into some information, some backstory, some understanding about this particular character, but that was just completely not there. And on top of that, there was no other mention of other characters here, which for me, I was like, come on now, it's nearly a year since the last character. At least show us other characters or go into in-depth about the current character that you have showed us before, but they didn't show us that, which was kind of shitty.
Please, God, give me the answer!
Now, aside from that disappointing aspect, there was skill tree information. Now, we have known for some time that they were going to be implementing skill trees into Overwatch 2. Interesting idea. I think it's going to make a lot of characters have a bit more of a unique feel when you are playing with them. And from the little bit of information that we did gather, you can clearly see there's going to be 3 separate columns for each particular hero. I mean, each one is going to be different, of course, but maybe one's going to be an attack column, a defense column, and maybe a passive column. If we look at soldiers, for instance, it's going to have 1 column with commander, 1 rifle, 1 vigilante. For instance, in the vigilante space for soldier, towards the bottom of the skill tree, there's going to be things like a pulse rifle deals 5%, 1 to 1.5 more damage for each bullet that hits an enemy, while the trigger remains held. Using Helix rockets maintains a trigger held. There's also mention of Junkrat being able to potentially dual-wield rocket launchers, changes to Reinhardt having 2 charges now with his Flame Strike, a change with the ability to maneuver his charge a little bit more. all these things may make a very interesting change, and we may see some really cool and new types of play the games just off the back of these changes. So look, I think the skill tree idea is really cool because, you know, one of the biggest problems I think Overwatch has had in recent times especially is the whole role queue thing. It's really kind of crippled the ability to be super diverse with different types of, you know, triple tank or triple healer or, you know, whatever, right? There are all these different ways that you could kind of change your team. It became 2-2-2, 2 tank, 2 DPS and 2 healers, and that's really kind of caught on now. You can still do open queue, they have brought that back, but majority of people that play competitive do play role queue, and every time I play it I'm like, oh, the diversity factor of this, it's really changed, it's not as cool. So maybe a skill tree factor will bring some of that uniqueness back. Now this whole game is all about PvE Overwatch 2. That's where they're trying to really make it look like it's going to be new and improved and different. They showed us some information on PvE. There was a section showing how enemies will visually change when you're attacking them. You know, weapons will start falling off the Omnics and stuff like that. Showing enemies like the Slicer, looks like a fast Zergling style looking thing they've nicknamed the Chicken or whatever. The Breacher, a slow walking robot that has like a big bomb in the middle of him, and he gets to a certain point, then he releases that bomb. Then there's the Puller, like a 3-orbed eye thing. It's like blindfolded. It sees you and it like pulls you in or something. I don't know, whatever, right? They're really trying to demonstrate here what kind of enemies we're going to be seeing, because every other festival event that we do see in Overwatch, it's always the same style of enemies over and over. I just hope these additional types of enemies will make whatever PvE and story modes they're looking to make a little bit more interesting. Because in reality, a lot of the PvE stuff that we have seen from Overwatch in the festival or, you know, certain events that they bring out, it's definitely felt like a side project, like little things that they want to bring out. And every time I've ever played a PvE mission in Overwatch, I'm like, oh, just give me the skin. Like, I just want the thing at the end of this and I don't want to play this again. So maybe I fall into the category that I'm not overly excited for PvE because I've played a bit of Overwatch's ideas of PvE. It's not really captivating me. But having said that, a lot of people I'm sure are very excited for PvE. I just hope whatever they're bringing to the table in terms of PvE, it is so fundamentally different or reworked, or there's so much more that they've added to this that it does justify the 2 on the end, because that's the big question, right? You know, they've put a 2 on the end of this, but is this just a hefty DLC? We'll get back to that. Before we get there, guys, huge cosmetic changes. I mean, gigantic cosmetic changes with some of the heroes. Okay, let's start with Mccree. He has a longer beard now. I know, crazy, but it justifies why it's called Overwatch 2. Then there's Pharah's visor, a little bit more transparent now, so you can see her a bit more. Gigantic fundamental changes to the aesthetic of the character. Now she's obviously had to have a bit more of a transparent visor. Maybe it'll help her see more, because the characters now look so different that she just needs all the help she can get to try and see if that's Mccree or is that Roadhog? I don't know. Reaper, extremely important. More silver, okay? It really just looks like a half-baked skin that they didn't really want to put in the game. But hey, it's in Overwatch 2, guys. So Reaper has more silver. Very exciting. And before we move on, Widow, the biggest change of all. Alright, she has a different type of ponytail. Huge news. It's going to redefine how you play Widow. So just look out for that. But again, it honestly looks like I'm playing Where's Wally with some of these changes. Like, I was looking at the screen going, am I seeing, like, what am I looking for here? It was just the biggest nonsense aspect of how they're changing Overwatch. I mean, anyway, look, again, it just seems like half-baked ideas that they didn't want to put into loot boxes. And they thought, you know what, we'll throw these on the characters and everyone will think, hey, this is why I'm paying for Overwatch 2. But before we finish, that's kind of the major beats that's happened within this whole presentation. Overwatch 2, in my opinion, has put the 2 on the end of it because it felt like it needed to rebrand. I think it's in this desperate attempt at the moment to get more people on or bring some of that fan base back, because it's no secret that the population for Overwatch has diminished and continued to diminish over the years. As many times I'm waiting for a game on Overwatch in top 500, of course, definitely not Wood League, what are you talking about, that I'm waiting 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes isn't out of the realm of being semi-normal, you know. This is the state where a lot of people are frustrated with the game, the population is down. I think Blizzard and Jeff from the Overwatch team have definitely tried to reposition this as a new and exciting adventure for you to jump back onto Overwatch for. And the problem with putting this 2 in front of it is you need to now justify it and convince the audience that are currently playing it and maybe are skeptical of coming back to play it. You need to justify why this price tag is what it is. I know there's going to be cross-play between the Overwatch 1 and the Overwatch 2 game, we know this, but at the moment, for me, it's still looking like a hefty DLC. And the pressure's on now to deliver something that genuinely feels like a new experience and something that genuinely deserves the Overwatch 2 mark next to it. I know they tried to show us in this presentation how much PvE is going to be part of the future of Overwatch and Overwatch 2. I totally get that. But again, I mean, I've walked away feeling like there is a lot of work being done here. But again, I don't feel like the core identity of Overwatch has been so fundamentally shifted that now this warrants a number 2 next to it. Not yet, at least. I think a lot of other people are feeling the same way here. I just hope that this does deliver. I love Overwatch, I play it every day, and the biggest problem right now is there's just not enough people playing it. What I'm worried about is this game comes out, there's just not enough content that comes out consistently to keep the hype up and keep the actual players engaged, and it may have a similar fate to Overwatch 1, which will mean I have another 4 hours in queue time, which is not really what I want to be doing, but we'll have to see. But again, that's all the major beats from the presentation today. I'm still a bit meh. I want them to be showing something more. I'm not overly wrapped in what we've seen from Overwatch 2, but look, I am a huge Overwatch fan, so whatever they give me, I'm gonna play, but we'll have to see. Guys, have a good day, good night, wherever you are. I'll see you guys next time. Laymen out!